Dre and Jay were taking hip-hop to a whole new level.
It was all a dream.
And everything was fly.
Sirius XM Fly.
A channel featuring hip-hop and R&B from the 90s and 2000s. To listen to Sirius XM Fly, activate your subscription now by calling 844-711-8800 or head over to SiriusXM.com to sign up quickly.
Hey everyone, it's Megyn Kelly from The Megyn Kelly Show. You hear me every weekday on Sirius XM Triumph Channel 111, but I am inviting you to join me over on the Sirius XM app for a very special series I'm doing with just you and yours truly. This is our chance to really get into topics that affect us all, important personal issues like marriage, parenting, and friendship. So join me on the Sirius XM app for these special exclusive shows. I love the Sirius XM app. Just search Megyn Kelly.
Census free-to-play game. Pick an area of the strike zone and take your best swing. If you get a single, double, triple, or home run, you'll receive a prize. Smash a home run to collect a bonus bet on us. BetMGM Game Center. Gamble responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. This U.S. promotional offer not available in Mississippi, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. For New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY or 7369. For Arizona, call 1-800-STEP. For Massachusetts, 1-800-327-5050. For Iowa, 1-800-OFF. For Puerto Rico, 1-800-91-0023. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards vary depending on market. Expired 24 hours.
The top analysts in the game are breaking it all down with the most up-to-date stats, analysis, and draft advice you can't find anywhere else. Everything you need to prepare for your draft. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio has you covered. Tune in all month long to Channel 87. Brought to you by Bogle Family Vineyards, third-generation family-owned wines of exceptional quality and proud sponsor of Fantasy Nuts Everywhere. Fantasy football is better with Bogle.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. Let's see. You gotta get this. You gotta get this. Let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. 018-14868.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vedi Vedi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood in Dimdare Hills, California, on a beautiful Super Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. If you want a wide split, keep eating that fast food. I'm not going to say the name, but it has a tendency to make you a little bit wider, and that's okay. All's fair in love and war. What a great day on Big C Sports Podcast. I tell you, I've been doing some chanting. It's called this Buddhist chant. It's called Nam Yoho Renke Yo, Nam Yoho Renke Yo, Nam Yoho Renke Yo. I'm chanting tonight for the Mega Millions, and I believe may lightning strike if I don't win. It's only like $700 million. I could use the money so I can buy a full tank of gas in California. I want to say I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man coming to you from Dimdare Hills, California. I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter, especially the good old boys at the state capitol in Dimdale Hills, California. We could all use more laughter in our lives because they pull some shenanigans. But the show must go on. As I tell you, the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play Curry for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life. Have you ever? Do you believe in miracles? See, I mix all that in on the Big C Sports Podcast. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast applications out of New York City. And then streaming on 4 TV platforms like Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And then I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew. Back in the days at Salem Media, I never missed a show. Now we have people who miss a practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice, the people who miss practice, and I never missed a show. And I love doing that with Big C Sports Podcast. Also, what I never miss is I took a speed reading class, and I'm learning that it works. It actually helps me talk faster. I gotta talk faster. Sometimes people say I talk too slow, if you can believe that. But what I do want to make sure is I do it every single show. I pay homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, they will help you. Just got to pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's nice when somebody's leaning back. I really do appreciate that. I got a lot of good things to say with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. And just like it says, and God says in Genesis 1 verse 3, God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. I want to shine a light on the subject of reparations. I have a special guest on today. Really do appreciate it. I met her about a year ago up in Northern California at a California Reparations Task Force, and she's a brilliant person, and I really do love listening to her speak. Such an eloquent, erudite speaker, and a beautiful, intelligent African-American woman that we need to have more of that type of personality and power on the airwaves. Gone are the days, this is not your granddaddy's Oldsmobile, if that makes sense to you. I want to make sure that we get that 9 series DNA. All life came from the African continent, and we need to have more people speaking the truth, because the truth shall set you free, and I love bringing it up to you. I know we just had a lot of times where people kind of get disappointed when they don't get their way, but I think about the times before I bring on a special guest. I think about the times when Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers ever, you know, he won the championship 3 times in a row, but in order to win it 3 times in a row, he had to lose a couple of fights. He didn't always win every fight that he had, and that's why he was able to win the championship 3 times in a row, because he didn't quit. What did Johnny Cochran say? If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. But at the same time, I think about the Just Act, where the United States Department of Justice worked with the German government to make sure descendants of Holocaust got their reparations. And nobody complained. The United States government, along with the state of California, made sure that Japanese Americans got reparations from the internment camps that they were wrongfully placed into. They atoned for it. And nobody complained. Our Native Americans got their reparations because they have reservations you can go to and gamble. And that builds money and revenue for their culture. The part of the 1866 Indian Treaty, it excluded African Americans. We were supposed to be a part of that. But that was taken away from us. Not because we wanted it to be, but because of the government people in power. And it's a lot like the Homestead Act of 1862, where the United States government gave white Americans, white men, over 160 acres of land, and even white Europeans. You just have to live on that land. They told black Americans no. The GI Bill that gave our great soldiers benefits when they came home from the war. Black Americans helped end Hitler's reign, but they were told no. Pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. Well, what do you do when you put together a California Reparations Task Force and you have the governor of this great state of California saying he's going to mandate it? He asked for the help of the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber, Secretary of the State of California. And the first two times that the vote went up for Senate Bills 1331, 1403, and 1050, they passed overwhelmingly the first and second phase. But something happened on the third phase. The Senate Bill 1050 was for eminent domain, crafted by the inimitable California Senator Stephen Bradford. That passed 56-0. And then shenanigans happened. Something happened where they said, don't count all the votes. Remember, we heard that for the election in 2020. Count all the votes. Count them all. Count all the votes. And there was cries that some of the votes were not counted. Count all the votes. Well, how would you feel if you were not even allowed to get your vote? That's what happened to descendants of child slavery. I want to call us freedmen and freedwomen. Like the Freedmen's Bank that was created by Lincoln in 1863. And it was supposed to be a place for African Americans to put their money. And it had 50 white appointees of the bank, 50 white trustees, and they stole the money! And now in California, Governor Gavin Newsom pledged $12 million to create more opportunity to create the Freedmen's Bureau, Freedmen's Agency, so they can ferret out the reparations. And we know something happened, as Scarface said, politic. It's called politics. Something happened in politics. Well, politics is fine, but we want to win. I'm going to take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. When I come back, I'm going to have a special guest on Big C Sports Podcast. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all across the universe and streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. I really do appreciate it. You know, I believe I'm the only sports show that does sports and reparations. As a beautiful, intelligent black man, we are so capable of doing anything as long as they don't put the handcuffs on us, no pun intended, and the handcuffs on our mind, the handcuffs on our speaking. I want to really take the time to edify a beautiful, intelligent African-American woman, erudite woman that can really shape the consciousness of how people in the mainstream see our people. Talking to the attorney, great attorney, Kamilah Moore, is a reparatory justice scholar and an attorney with a specialization in entertainment and intellectual property. As a law student, Ms. Moore contributed to human rights reports related to domestic and international human rights issues, including but not limited to racial inequality. In Brazil, the human rights to sanitation in Lowndes County, Alabama, and the human rights to remedy for indigenous black women affected by racialized gender violence in New Guinea. I want to just finish edifying her before I bring her on. While studying abroad, the University of Amsterdam, Ms. Moore wrote a master's thesis exploring the intersections between international law and reparatory justice for the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, and their legacies. She earned her Juris Doctor's degree from Columbia Law School in New York City, a Master's of Law degree in International Criminal Law from the University of Amsterdam, and a Bachelor's degree from the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. Kamilah Moore, Esquire, is exemplary. She's been appointed to the California Reparations Task Force as the chair. I could go on and on and on, but I only have an hour show. Kamilah Moore, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to join you, Charlton.
Well, I really do appreciate you very much. I want to just get right down to it. I know that there are a lot of things that happen since you became a lawyer, and I want young people to listen to you, because oftentimes in our community, if you're a man, mainstream will open the door for you. if you play football, basketball, or baseball. If you're a woman, mainstream will open the door for you. If you play basketball or volleyball or maybe tennis or track and field, we just saw the Olympics over in Paris. What got you in to having a love of the law and climbing to the top of the ladder? Your thoughts?
That's a really good question. I think, I didn't know I wanted to go to law school until after I graduated college. I applied to law school like a year or two after I graduated from college. But, ever since I was a kid, I always rooted for the underdog. My mom told me that all the time.
Okay.
I would always defend people who were being bullied.
Yes.
Even in fourth grade, I organized a petition and a protest to get healthy food, like a salad bar at my school. Because I went to a charter school in South Central LA, and the food options weren't that great, and I was successful. Me and my friends, I helped. And so that was it. From an early age, I realized, okay, what I could do in terms of helping people and making change and being a change agent. And so, I applied to law school after college, after some reflecting.
Yep.
And, I've always studied and learned about reparations since I was a kid.
Yes.
I used to, in the library, take out books on slave narratives. So I remember vividly as a kid in my bed reading narratives of enslaved people.
Yep.
So, it's always stuck with me, family talking about 40 acres and a mule. And so, finally decided, okay, maybe I should go to law school. And I did go to law school with an express intention to study reparations and see how I can use my degree for change.
Well, I really do appreciate talking to our attorney, Kamilah Moore, part of the California Reparations Task Force. And as you know, without the law, we are a nation of the laws. Sometimes as a culture, we can be very bombastic. We can be very emotional because oftentimes we've dealt with so much trauma and so much junk that's been in our way, like handcuffs on our mind, handcuffs on our thinking. Oftentimes we only think of handcuffs on our wrist. But oftentimes, if we don't have someone to advocate for us as young people, they never even get to the thinking that you just expressed your thoughts. Can you hear me, Ms. Moore?
I said that's very true. And, I remember that's one of the books that I read in college by Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the reason why we need reparations, because it's also about rectifying the psychological trauma that we've endured for generations and generations. Absolutely.
Yes, you're wonderful in even saying that. I want young people to hear that. Not to make excuses for anything. We just want to take off the handcuffs. Take them off of our mind. And it starts in kindergarten as there's a track. If you can't read at the third grade level, then we know where you tend to end up as people of color. And I want to be a part of the vanguard that stops that behavior. So I want to jump forward. We learned about your education, where you grew up. And a few years ago, California launched the nation's first task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans, descendants of chattel slavery. The 9-member committee was established to meet the requirements of Assembly Bill AB 3121, which California Secretary of State, the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber, she authored that and introduced it in 2020. Tell me how you got, I would say, selected to be a part of that prestigious group. Your thoughts?
I was just absolutely ecstatic. When I graduated from law school in 2019 in New York City, Columbia Law, and then I moved back to LA, my home, right after law school. And then in 2020, right, perfect timing, like you stated, Governor Newsom signed into law then Assembly Member Shirley Weber's bill to create the first reparations task force in the nation.
Yes.
And so anyone after that point, after he signed it, could, apply to be on the task force. For instance, there was a provision in there when I read it that stated, the final recommendations have to comport with international human rights law standards.
Yes.
And, someone who, just graduated from law school, studying reparations from this particular vantage point.
Yes.
I thought that was essentially my experience, that I used this leverage to apply and to be appointed on the task force. So I was appointed by Speaker Anthony Rendon in 2021.
Yes.
And yeah, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Talking to the great Kamilah Moore, attorney at law, Esquire. I'm telling you, I'm so inspired to hear you speak on the Big C Sports podcast, because oftentimes they will pigeonhole our beautiful, intelligent black man to just talking about touchdowns, home runs, and everything athletic. And I like that you're erudite, and people need to realize there's a new beginning, and it starts with us. We are the press. We don't have to wait for someone, pejoratively speaking, to tell us how we should think and what we should love. I want to lead you back to when I met you. It was last year, several times at a task force. You actually photobombed one of my pictures, too, and I keep that picture, and I kept it, so it's a great picture. But I want to lead you to this. At the state capitol, just over the weekend, I was there, I think, from 12 o'clock noon to about 12:30 midnight as people left, and we know what happened in that 12 hours. Attorney Kamilah Moore, in your opinion, what happened?
What happened? There's a long story and then there's a short story, right?
Yes.
And the short story is that the California Legislative Black Caucus members, betrayed one of their longtime colleagues, that being Senator Stephen Bradford, and betrayed the entire Black American community, particularly those who are descendants of slaves.
Yes.
By refusing to introduce two would-be historic reparations bills that would have created a new state agency and a new account in the state treasury, a reparations fund,
yes,
particularly for descendants of slaves. And not only did they refuse to introduce these bills, and there's, I think, a variety of different reasons or excuses, rather, for why they didn't do it.
Yes.
They also obstructed other elected officials, or one elected official, from trying to do the right thing and introducing these bills so that they could have, a debate on the assembly floor, which was the last and final step before it would have gone to Governor Newsom's desk for signature or for veto.
Yeah, and that was actually a Republican. I was talking to Chris Lodges, who's part of CJAC, a coalition for a just and equitable California. Really do appreciate his great work that he's done with Senator Stephen Bradford. But it was a white male Republican, and it may have been for whatever posturing he was trying to do, but he wanted to bring the bill up. And it was, unfortunately, from what I could see, because they would not allow us in, the California Legislative Black Caucus that blocked it at that point. Is that fair enough to say your thoughts?
You said the CLBC blocked it, right?
That's what I was hearing, because they would not let us in the room. We could only see it on the TV monitors. But what are you hearing on that?
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yeah. So they wouldn't allow us in the gallery, which, we talked to some employees at the state capitol, and they said, they've never seen that before, where there was passes required to get into the gallery. And, they were barely even giving any passes, particularly to the black folks, which was completely discriminatory. And I heard that came from the Speaker of the State Assembly, Robert Rivas, which was very unfortunate.
Wow.
There was some clips, from the Assembly floor because they streamed. But then also Bill S.A. Lee, the white male Republican that you mentioned that had the courage to introduce these bills on the floor, he actually used his own cell phone to record what was happening on the Assembly floor, particularly. Yes, there's a video that's gone viral of one of the California Legislative Black Caucus members, Isaac Bryan, physically blocking Bill S.A. Lee from going to the front of the Assembly to inquire about introducing these bills onto the floor for debate. And in that video, Isaac Bryan is chastising Bill S.A. Lee, saying, look, you're a Republican. You have voted for anti-black policies in the past, and now you care about reparations?
Wow.
Isaac Bryan goes on to say, I voted for these two bills the entire legislative session. Bill S.A. Lee says, well, then why won't you introduce the bill? Bring it up.
Yes.
And then Isaac Bryan kind of chastises him again. Well, okay, then, let's bring it up. Let's vote on it. And Bill S.A. Lee was like, okay, do it. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it up.
Yes.
And then Isaac Bryan just turns away because he's so angry. And his other Assembly member colleagues kind of take Ivy Bryant from the situation because it was getting heated.
Wow.
Bill S.A. Lee was the only elected official that had the courage to introduce these bills onto the floor. And I will say that even if Bill S.A. Lee voted against these two bills or even abstained, the fact that he was willing to introduce these bills to the floor for a debate, for it to then be voted on, right, that deserves to be honored and honored, period.
I agree with you. Kamilah Moore, attorney, Esquire. In fact, the bills we're talking about, Senate Bill 1331 creates a state fund to support current and future reparations fundings, and I know it's going to happen. And also Senate Bill 1403, that creates a state agency to help residents verify eligibility and carry out reparations policies. And ironically, as I was saying, take the handcuffs off of our minds and take the handcuffs off of our votes. We're used to seeing handcuffs on our wrist. If you think about Senate Bill 1050, it provides restitution and compensation for eligible residents whose property was taken unjustly by certain state actions. That actually passed by a vote of 56-0. And after that happened, then they had to pause. Your thoughts? Your thoughts, Kamilah Moore?
I said it just shows that, reparations it's real, it's tangible, and that bill would provide land restitution, and I do hope that it passes.
Yes.
It got bipartisan support.
Yes.
Right? And that is extremely important to note as well. Absolutely.
Well, that's ironic how that won 56-0 on the floor, and then they put a pause for whatever excuse, saying we don't know if we have everything correct that we need to have. And in the next few minutes, Kamilah Moore, attorney, Esquire, I want to just say the JUST Act, United States Department of Justice, along with the German government, created reparations for descendants of Holocaust. We also have Japanese Americans. They were interned in internment camps. California created reparations for them. That's happened. No one complained. Native Americans, part of the 1866 Indian Treaty. African Americans were supposed to be a part of that. We were excluded from that too. And now people go to casinos to gamble. That should have been part of what African Americans benefited from too. I believe in either the lead, follow, or get out of the way. Going forward, irrespective of how pained people feel or how bamboozled or blindsided people feel, how do we go forward? Because we are a country of law, not emotion. How can we use the law to get these bills back in front of the people that can say yes? Your thoughts?
Right. So, these two bills were killed. The legislative session is over. The next legislative session starts back up in the California State Legislature around November, December of this year.
Yes. And
most likely, bills will start to be introduced around, the top of 2025. And so where do we go from here? This situation kind of reminded me of Martin Luther King's last book, which was entitled Chaos or Community. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And, I think the trust with the Black Caucus, between the Black Caucus and the community, is completely broken, where some community members want to see the Black Caucus members completely replaced and don't even mind if Republicans take their spot.
Really?
Yes, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, even if the Black Caucus members that, aren't termed out end up winning their elections this November, I'm hearing people want to do recalls and run special elections to get these Black Caucus members out.
Yes.
Because that level of betrayal and sense of betrayal is so high. But at the same time, there are some people who are talking about not, mending that trust and, ensuring that the caucus members who remain actually serve the interests of the people. So there's a few strategies out there in terms of what's next, and we just kind of have to stay tuned and see how things play out.
Well, without putting you on the spot, in the final 2 minutes, if you don't mind, we have a presidential election, and we're right about 2 months away from that. November the 5th will be a seminal moment for this country. I've only heard Dr. Cornel West talk about reparations. I haven't heard as much. I know Trump really doesn't talk about it at all, other than Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell saying we don't believe in reparations for something that happened 150 years ago. And then also Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, it's like she's on the fence about it, but won't come forward and say strongly like Dr. Cornel West does. And then maybe there's some thought, and it's just a speculation, that Governor Gavin Newsom, put pressure on the Black Caucus to not push those votes for it because Senate Bill 1050 passed 56-0. Is there any thoughts to that? Your thoughts?
That's a good question. There's rumblings that the Black Caucus killed these particular two bills, and it came from like the higher ups of the Democrat Party, who didn't want Newsom to, pretty much sign these bills before the election because of the implications it might have had on the national election. Conservatives and Republicans might have balked, and it would have hurt Kamala Harris. That's what some people are saying. And for instance, I know there was an article that just came out today about reparations nationally and kind of where Kamala stands. And to me, I kind of read it as, like the National Democrat Party, they're trying to kind of do damage control with the Black community right now, based on what happened in California. So, what happened in California is having some reverberating effects for sure, even on the national scale. Well,
I tell you, it's all fair and love and war. Politics is a great game. We love sports, but we love politics too. I love it all. I want to ask you one final thought before you run out. I know I've been in L.A. many times, and I love the great Kamilah Moore, attorney Esquire, talking about reparations, reparative justice, and fairness. I think you are a wonderful person, a brilliant person. Thank you for photobombing the second time, because I got that on my phone from a screensaver for you too, the photobomb of the last photograph. But I want to ask you, aside from politics, where can we find some good collard greens in Southern California? We only hear about Randy's Donuts, but I know in L.A. they got to have a place you can get a good plate of collard greens so we can all watch the election and who wins on November 5th. Your thoughts? A good plate of collard greens in L.A.?
Oh, absolutely. Love me some soul food, my favorite kind. I would definitely say Dulan's. It's a really good restaurant and staple in South Central LA. Okay. They have a couple stores. Restaurants in the area, and then also Chef Marilyn's. It's a little small, petite woman and restaurant, but oh my God, her food is packed with flavor.
And she can throw down, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did she put the oxtails in the collard greens, or just bland with onions and garlic? Your thoughts?
She be putting turkey necks.
Okay. Well, I'll take it to that. I got to stop by that next time in LA. I want to say thank you to the great Kamilah Moore, attorney Esquire, and for joining Big C Sports Podcast. I talk sports and reparations. I cover NFL football, college football, NBA basketball. I want to get our beautiful, intelligent African-American athletes to start honoring our ancestry by not just talking about a game. Somebody makes them be quiet about it. But if the truth will set you free, then let's have at least the courage that Dr. King and Abraham Lincoln had. I'll let you close with one thought, anything you want people to pay attention to going forward, and then I'll let you run. And I appreciate you so much for being on Big C Sports Podcast.
And I just want to say thank you, first and foremost, for the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. And the other thing I will say is just, thank you to the community for, your support for reparations advocates that have been working for centuries. Yeah. And this is really a fight that really starts with our ancestors who were once enslaved, like Callie House and Isaiah Dickerson. A lot of us don't know that, our enslaved ancestors right after emancipation were working tirelessly for reparations. That's and right. So this is a sacred political project that, we should all be proud to be a part of.
I'm very proud to be a part of that. I'm proud to have you on the Big C Sports Podcast. And I will say, I hope I never need to make this call. If I ever get in trouble, I'm not calling Ben Crump. I'm calling Kamilah Moore. And hopefully...
don't say that, guess what? What? I actually work for Ben Crump. I work for his LA office. So call us.
Whoop, there it is. I hope I never need to, but I will if I have to. The great Kamilah Moore on the Big C Sports Podcast. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.
Oh, great. You too. Likewise.
That's talking to the great Kamilah Moore, Esquire, attorney. And not only is she intelligent, she's powerful, she's beautiful, she's kind, she's very smart. And I hope that our beautiful, intelligent audience, no matter what color you are, don't get pigeonholed into just being an athlete. If you listen to her speak, there's no way you could tell me that should not be part of mainstream conversation other than the shucking and jiving that they give us on some of our award shows. That's just my opinion, but I want to say I'll take the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, I'll talk more about sports and the NFL football and some college football. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, I'm back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all across the universe and streaming on Sport TV platforms Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Just had the great pleasure of talking to the great Kamilah Moore, attorney Esquire, part of the California Reparations Task Force. As the chair, she opined, in her opinion, what happened at the state capitol. I was right there with her, along with hundreds of other advocates that are for liberty and justice for all of all colors, black and white. At the same time, I would love to see more people champion for causes that affect African Americans, descendants of child slavery, freedmen, as we have for other people with their issues. Kamilah Moore is just a fabulous person, and the fact that she's doing work with Ben Crump, these are two great minds. There's a sea change happening in this country where liberty and justice for all is not just a spoken words, it's real. I want you to hear one of the greatest speakers in the history of reparations that Kamilah Moore and Big C believe in. Listen with your own eyes and ears. You can't say you didn't hear it.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
His speech, The Two Nations of Black America, and it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them. He murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Reparations now! Reparations forever! You're listening to the Big C Sports Podcast. I love bringing you reparations. Just had the great Kamilah Moore, and then you heard the inimitable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And it seems like the only ones who have not gotten justice are descendants of child slavery that President Abraham Lincoln talked about, and also the inimitable Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to pay a quick thank you to the California Reparations Task Force. Again, the great Kamilah Moore, attorney at law, Esquire. She just came on Big C Sports Podcast. I love giving her praise. I love giving praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown, who also came on the Big C Sports Podcast about 3 months ago. He's the vice chair. I want to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. I love giving him praise. He's like Moses. When Moses was talking to God, and God said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said to God, well, who do I tell him sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. And he went down and did his thing. And that reminds me of Senator Stephen Bradford. Rumor has it he was on his knees praying to God. He said, God, how do I get reparations passed at the state capitol? And God told Senator Bradford, go down to the state capitol and tell them I said pass reparations. And Senator Bradford said to God, well, who do I tell him sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. And he did it. And Senate Bill 1050 passed 56-0. You know God's behind that. And then shenanigans set in. And it wouldn't even be voted on in 1331 and 1403. But it's not over. It is not over because there's enough good people in this country and lawmakers that want to do the right thing. I want to give Senator Bradford praise. Met him several times. And he's a brilliant man. Stay encouraged. Be not dismayed. Be not dismayed. Be not dismayed. I love giving you praise. I want to give praise to a council member, Monica Montgomery Stepp. I love giving her praise. Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer, I thought the way he treated the people saying bring the votes forward, he was shaking his hands and laughing and shucking and jiving. He was just on Big C Sports Podcast 2 weeks ago. And I felt like I would love to have him explain what he meant by that behavior. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's an expert when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to give her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, also professor at California, Berkeley. I love giving him praise. And Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, who's a Japanese American, whose ancestry got reparations from the internment camps, and he's on the task force, the only one that's ancestry received reparations. He also supports reparations. You got to give that some praise. Give them all praise, praise, praise. That's my story. And I'm sticking with it. Now, I'd be remiss if I did not put what I do for Big C Sports Podcast, Big C Sports Corporation, and RDC. I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth with Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the Law Office of Attorney Scott Thibodeau and the Law Office of Attorney George Jones. The missing link, long-term care, solutions by the book, over 3 decades of experience, helping seniors get their long-term care benefits. Medicare and You, taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal, and other parts of the country is called Medicaid. And I love bringing that forward for people to understand, because my purpose is not just being a sports guy. I want to be the vanguard for people who need help. You need hope and you need help. And we give you that with the RDC team. And that's why I have a commercial. What's the commercial, Big C? It's more like an infomercial. Well, it may be more like an infomercial, but that's what it is. It is what it is. And I'm very proud of it, bringing it to you. That's my story. We have your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home cost. You can find out your options, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. Our promise to you, we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. Is that Aflac? No, Aflac's the duck. A duck cannot protect your assets. It can barely protect its own. That's why you can buy it at a restaurant with the collard greens that Kamilah Moore talked about in Southern California. We do asset protection, kind of like a football play. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. We have ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, have you ever known anyone to deal with skilled nursing facilities, 800-772-8624. Have you ever known anyone to need help with medical prescriptions? 800-772-8624. Have you ever known anyone to need help with medical equipment cost? 800-772-8624. But not only that, protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program can be from 10 to 40%. And I heard an attorney at a conference tell me that 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust. I say it again. 7 out of 10 Americans do not have a will and a trust. That means that at the end of your life, probate court, they will love you. In fact, they will have a will for you, and you will not like it. 800-772-8624, a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Not only that, I'm not done yet. You got to have a trust with the RDC team. Protection, insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance with pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period, which is over in California. What about your fixed assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. A trust protects your fixed assets, your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market accounts, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, your fixed indexed annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. A trust protects your real estate, qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, and other investments. For example, avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000 with the new program that California is giving to illegal immigrants to buy a house. Let's say that house appreciates to $1 million in 1 year. That's what some real estate brokers tell you to get to sell. Well, that's a $900,000 capital gain. Avoid that with your property in a trust. Attention business owners over 3 decades of experience. Find out your insurance, what it covers, and what it doesn't cover. 800-772-8624. Well, why would I trust you, Big C? I got a friend. He also does asset protection. I'm glad you asked. Most companies, they don't tell you their references because they don't have them. But the RDC team with the Big C Sports Corporation, we have the endorsements of the late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors and led change in California's nursing homes. You know anybody in a nursing home? He served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. The late Jim Gomez, the CEO of California Association of Health Facilities, he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, the late Robert Carlson, the top legal counsel for CalPERS, he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. George Jones, Esquire. He's the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. Not only that, the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We also have attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. He endorsed the RDC team. Not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods with Resource Development Consulting, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, who's the CEO of Resource Development Consulting. Been doing this thing 34 years. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Big C, Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant, business development consultant for the RDC team nationwide. But not only that, owner of Big C Sports Podcast Corporation, the #1 sports show in the universe. I give you real food. You get meat on the bone. You ever go to somebody's house and they give you a rib and there's no meat on the bone? Well, I give you meat on the bone when you follow Big C Sports Podcast, and the longer you mix it with collard greens. But not only that, we have Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. And everybody likes to eat. You can Google it on Access Sacramento. She endorses the RDC team. You got to give that some praise. I say give it praise, because a mind is a trouble thing to waste. I know I'm going to talk about some sports real quick, but I want to say we got to have courage. I love having the inimitable attorney, Esquire, Kamilah Moore, join the Big C Sports Podcast team. Maybe we could just get Ben Crump on the Big C Sports Podcast. But you got to let me know if he knows a good place to get some collard greens, because I think they're best in Northern California. I'm going to have a collard green cook-off for the holidays. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. We got to have courage. Saying sorry, it takes courage to admit when you're wrong. I was wrong! I thought they would have passed reparations last Saturday. But I was wrong. But it's not over yet. It's not over yet. Take responsibility and accountability. We will have reparations because we deserve it. It's the right thing to do. And good people know that. I don't know why our presidential candidates believe that not talking about truth is going to help them get elected. How's not talking about the truth going to get you elected? It takes courage for a firefighter to go into a burning building to save a family. That takes courage. It takes courage for first responders to run into a building and save someone who's having a calamity. That takes courage. It doesn't take a lot of courage to tell the truth. If you think telling the truth is going to cost you an election, are you out of your fucking mind? Tell the truth. Because I heard in a movie called Dumb and Dumber, the truth shall set you free. That wasn't Dumb and Dumber, that was the Holy Bible, Big C. Well, it said the same thing. The truth shall set us free. We have this great country called the land of the free and the home of the brave. If telling the truth, what do they say when you put your hand on the Bible? The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall set you free. So help you God. So remember that when people are asking for your vote. What kind of country do we live in? The truth should not cost you an election. Just tell the truth. If you believe in decent people, tell the truth. Reparations is mandatory, necessary. It's happened for descendants of Holocaust. It's happened for Japanese Americans in the internment camps. And Native Americans got the reservations where you go gamble. It's happened in other countries on this planet. And the descendants of chattel slavery freedmen are next. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to give you the rankings in Big C's college football because I know a lot of people want to hear touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh, man, Willie, he's going all the way. I got Big C's top 10 college football teams. It's my story and it's my rankings, and I'm going to stick with it. I got number 10 in Big C's college football power rankings. I got Tennessee. The Volunteers, they are 1-0, and they're part of the SEC Conference. They love their football down in Tennessee, and we will see how far they can go in the SEC. I have number 9 in Big C's college football power rankings. I have the Utah Utes. What's a Ute? Well, they have a Cam Rising his back, the 7th-year quarterback. He's going to lead them, in my opinion, to the the Big 12 championship. I want to say Pac-12. The Pac-12 is gone after 100 years. What a shame. Pac-12, are you out of your fucking mind? How'd you let that go away? They were asleep at the helm, but Utah's going to have a chance to win the Big 12. That's my opinion. I got number 8 in Big C's college football power rankings. The Nittany Lions, the Penn States in Happy Valley. They should be happy after a lot of their games this year because they have a really solid football team. I got number 7 in Big C's college football power rankings. Quack, 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 quack. The Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks, they laid an egg against Idaho Vandals. But I think they'll be back when they play Boise State this week. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You never know what uniform they're going to wear, but that's one of the great things about that great university, the University of Oregon, now part of the Big Ten. I have number 6 in Big C's college football power rankings. I've got Roll Tide, the Alabama Crimson Tide. No longer the school for segregation. Almost all their players are African American now. Back in the day when Paul Bear Bryant said, I got to get me one of those. When Sam Bam Cunningham from USC beat Alabama in a big game, they started recruiting African American athletes. I got them at number 6. Number 5 in Big C's college football power rankings. I have Notre Dame. They played like a champion down in College Station, Texas. Over 100,000 strong. Saw Notre Dame come in and play like a champion. Number 4 in Big C's college football power rankings. I have Ole Miss. like Ole Miss. Can you pass reparations? At least speak about reparations. Ole Miss. The Ole Miss Rebels. They have a good football team this year. Sarkisian's found his groove. We'll see if they can conquer the SEC. I have number 3 in Big C's college football power rankings. The stars shine bright deep in the night, deep in the heart of Texas. The Texas Longhorns. How about those Longhorns? Well, they are number 3. We'll see if they can earn it as they travel to the Big House and take on reigning national champion, the Michigan Wolverines. We will see. I have number 2 in Big C's college football power rankings. The Ohio State Buckeyes. The Ohio State Buckeyes from up north. No longer Woody Hayes 3 yards in a cloud of dust. This team can throw the ball, and when they throw it well. I like Ohio State competing for another Big Ten championship. Number 1, near Stone Mountain, Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs. Roof, 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 roof. Is there a real dog, Big C? Well, I don't have a real dog, but I just want to say roof, 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 roof. That's what they do down in Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs. I have them number 1. They dominated Clemson in every facet of the game last week, and they're off to another great start. Georgia's won 40 straight regular season games. That's the most in the sport since 1957. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. That's Big C Sports Podcast. I bring you sports and reparations unlike anybody else in the universe. If we could just get more of our NFL players, our NBA players, baseball players, and WNBA players to champion reparations. If you have a beautiful, intelligent black woman, an erudite woman like Kamilah Moore, attorney at law, Esquire, and she can champion reparations because the truth shall set us free. What person out there doesn't want to hear the truth when it comes to our political leaders? We deserve that. I thank you for coming on to the Big C Sports Podcast. Be not afraid. Be not afraid of the truth. If you're wrong, say I'm sorry. You know if you're crooked, if you're not. Everybody knows if they owe somebody. You know if your word means anything, you know if it doesn't. Now, people can change their mind, but you don't really change your character. Have the character to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth will help you, God. So thank you for following Big C Sports. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I tell you on every Big C Sports podcast, yeah, I'm different. He's kind of different, isn't he? Yeah, he's kind of different. If you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who's loved by somebody else. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. You need more leader in your life. If that's happening to you, leader is an acronym for love is the answer. If somebody loves you, they don't hit you. I only hit you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't kick you. I only kicked you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out. I only choked you out because you made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever have to put up with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on Big C Sports Podcast, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy because we know reparations is real. And in the eyes of God, what kind of country would not want to repair something? What kind of country would not want to repair something and not even want to talk about it? You know, if your house got broken into and you went home, you called 911 and say, I was robbed. You wouldn't say, well, we don't want to upset somebody who robbed us. And you know you want your stuff back. If your stuff was lost and found at a train station, a bus station, or a school, you want to go to lost and found and say, hey, I lost something. And it has my ID in it. Has someone turned it in? You wouldn't say, oh, forget about it. We don't want to upset somebody who may have taken it. Reparations is about repair. The United Nations is behind reparations. What happened in California is about good and bad. People know when they're full of crap, and they know when they're right. You know it. We deserve reparations. How do you get on your knees and pray to God when you know descendants of child slavery were beaten and sold, raped, murdered, lynched from cradle to grave? And you say, well, we don't want to talk about that because it might make some people mad. Then be mad! But tell the truth. I love giving praise to my beautiful family, my grandparents on my mother's side, Mama and Pop, beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. She loves when she's making a bowl of collard greens and we come from outside playing and say, great grandma, I'm hungry. I want some collard greens. She said, go wash your hands and get a plate. I said, I don't need a plate. I'm hungry now. She said, boy, go wash your hands and get a plate. I said, I don't need a plate, great grandma. I'm hungry. She said, boy, in this house, you wash your hands and get a plate. I said, okay, great grandma. She was right about that. Always making sure we had lots of love and lots of food in the belly. Great grandpa Pop was a former military man and former Negro League baseball player. I really do love them, and I love giving them praise. And then my grandparents, Muddy and Hezekiah, beautiful, kind people. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, present, and their future. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. They still help me to this day. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. They started a head start program, a food program, and coaching all boys in Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. The best person I ever met in my life. Mama, you hear my praise. I'm always praising God. You hear my praise. I love you, mama, with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. I remember they also owned 40 acres of land. The homestead that gave white Americans 160 acres of land. But I was 8 years old walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night in Oakland. And I felt somebody touch me in my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some more cookies? I said, what are you doing? Grandma, it's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love when you speak. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. A voracious reader. We love talking sports and politics. Now we love Malcolm X. But we also love the movie Pulp Fiction with the great Vin Rames, Bruce Willis, Sam Jackson, and John Travolta. It reminded me of politics. Before the big fight, Vin Rames said, Bruce Willis, get your butt down over here. He said, take this money, and remember, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Say that, man! And Bruce Willis, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. He told him, that's jinging sensation you're feeling? Well, that's just pride. Flipping with you. And he told him what a lot of politicians say when they won't bring in the vote. He said, blood pride. He said, pride only hurts. It never helps. It says politics is filled with a lot of unrealistic, muddly bluckers who think that butt gets better with time like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it do. Take this money, you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling in the Caribbean. You're going to say Uncle Marsalis is right. We know that Bruce Willis didn't take the 5. He didn't take the 4, and he lost his LA privileges. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. He always said, don't look back. He said, I don't have much back there. He said, I needed a bigger backside, so I'm doing more squats to get my backside bigger. But I love my backside, Todd. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They would normally go to ESPN, but because of 2 black men in the crew, they started doing our thing there, and they called us the Dream Team. But just like the vote at the state capitol, shenanigans set in, and I'm still standing, if that makes sense to you. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for a Big C Sports Podcast on players and teams. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms. I've been Googling everything. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, even at the TV, and say play Big C Sports. You see your show come up. That's before it was even in the air. Now streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You can be anything you want to be, Malcolm. Always, always be the best you can be. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn, with their church buddies always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. FB nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no three-way teleprompter. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I scream so loud, because I want God to hear me. God, you hear my praise. You hear my praise, praise, praise. And I say I even praise that I won the California Making Millions tonight. The truth shall set you free. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love closing every show by saying, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, it makes me champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. There was never a fighter greater than Muhammad Ali. I end every Big C Sports podcast by saying thank you to the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Lincoln. And what are they telling them, our presidential candidates, to do now? Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! Say it loud! Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.